everybody, welcome back. My name is Abby. I'm with Fitness is Medicine. Today we're going to do another great workout you can do in your home with easy to follow directions, minimal equipment, and a circuit style format that you can get through rather quickly. Okay, so coming into these workouts, make sure you're warmed up and ready to move. 5 to 10 minutes of a cardio workout just to get your heart rate up, your muscles and joints ready for movement and warmed up, and your mindset ready for movement. Okay, today all we're going to need is a set of dumbbells, probably on the medium to lighter side, and a fit ball if you have one. So let's get started. We're gonna start down on the ground in a beast formation. So what that is, it sounds kind of crazy, but what it is you're on your hands and knees. Your hands are directly beneath your shoulders, your knees directly beneath your hips, and you're gonna lift your knees up. So your toes curl under and you just lift your knees. So your back stays flat. We don't wanna be up here. You wanna keep your back flat. Now, that's the starting position. And what I'm gonna have you do is move side to side, just a couple paces. But if that's too much, just see if you can hold the beast pose. So there's a lot of core action that goes on here. Now what I'm gonna do is just move to the side and then move to the other side. And we're gonna do that, go back and forth about 5 times. Keep that back flat. Like I said, if you need to, just hold that position. That's a really hard position to hold. And you can obviously rest in between if you need to put your knees down. One more time back and forth. We're just kind of sidestepping a couple times each side. And then rest. Okay, that's a great full body exercise as you're just realizing. If you do have trouble with your hands, like if your wrists bother you with that, you can use maybe some lighter dumbbells and move them with you, or you can line up like a yoga mat to put your hands on and move along. There's a couple different ways you can kind of modify that if your wrists are what are limiting you on that. Okay, stand up. Make sure you stand up nice and slowly. And we're going to try side lunges. Now, I recommend doing these maybe at your kitchen counter, somewhere where you can, when you step out to the side, that you can use to sit back like this. So notice that I'm able to sit back a little further, having something to hang on to so that I can keep my weight over my heel. So when you do a lunge, the most dangerous part of a lunge, and people will tell you, don't do lunges, is letting that knee go forward over your toe. And that's where the dangerous part of a lunge is. So keeping your weight back over your heel so that when you go into that side lunge, this leg is straight, you're over this heel, and your knee is not going forward over your toe, so you really have to sit back. It takes a lot of balance. So if you do them, like at your kitchen or your bathroom counter, or maybe along a railing where you can sit back and you can really, like I can balance here, but here I can even sit back further if I'm hanging on to something. So try to find a place like that. We're gonna go over to one side and then over to the other side. Now you can use a weight here if you're confident in your side lunging. If you're not and you're having any pain, really focus on holding on something to sit back. You can also do this in a smaller range of motion. So you step over to the side, just sit back a little ways. Really think about sitting your hips back. And that is really the biggest key, is sitting your hips back when you go into that lunge. So like I'm gonna hang on here, sit way back, and then squeeze your glute as you stand up. I would recommend, I don't know how many I've just done, but I would recommend maybe starting with just 5 on each side, especially if this is a new exercise for you, and then progress. But make sure that you're sitting your hips back and you're keeping your knee over your ankle. Okay, now we're gonna pick up some weights. And you could, like I said, if you wanna use weights on that one, you can reach and then reach, or just use one weight and alternate, switch it. Okay, now we're gonna do lateral raises. Let's do them either in a tandem stance or a staggered stance. Add a little balance challenge. It recruits more muscles all the way up the chain. Now we're going to alternate. So one, and then the other side. So this takes a lot of core stabilization to do one at a time. Stop kind of right below the height of your shoulder. Commonly people, want to lift it up way high, but you don't want to create any shoulder pain. That can create shoulder impingement, and we don't want that. Or if you already have impingement, you don't want to aggravate it. Another thing is you can bring it straight out to the side like this, or a little bit to the diagonal. So if you can see, this is straight out, you can't see the weight. This is just a little bit to the diagonal. It's sort of a more natural range of motion for the shoulder, and it can feel better if you do happen to have shoulder pain. The other thing is you could do smaller. This is just shortening the lever, if that is something that you can do without pain. Let's do 2 more on each side. Really have to contract the core here, stabilize through your core in order to make this happen, especially the heavier the weights that you get into this one. Okay, rest. I'm gonna rack my weights, just keep them out of my way. Remember that when you're picking up and putting down your weights, that can often be the most dangerous time because we're all really careful when we're doing the exercise. Bend your knees. Use your hips, just like a squat. You wanna sit your hips back, pick those weights up. Same thing when you're setting them down. Okay, next we're gonna use a ball here, and we are going to lay on it to do a hip extension. So we're gonna roll forward. You're gonna balance on your hands here. Bring your feet together, and we're gonna lift your legs straight. So you want to keep your knees straight through the whole time. Lift your legs. Hold it for 3 or 4 seconds and release. Hip extension. So the top part of my body is in a straight line. My head and neck are remaining in a straight line with the rest of my spine. And you're just lifting your legs till they come up to neutral or below. They don't even have to come up to neutral, but you want to lift them up off the floor and really squeeze through your glutes. Keep those knees straight. If you need to, you can think about lifting, pushing your heels towards the ceiling versus like this. Then you get more hamstring involvement, but we're trying really hard to isolate your glutes here. Breathing. You really sometimes have to work on your breath control while you're laying on your tummy on the ball. Two more. Keep those legs straight. Squeeze with those glutes and keep those feet together. And rest. Okay. We'll get the ball out of the way. We're going to stand up. So remember to stand up with good form. Take your time standing up if you do get lightheaded from that positional change. Now we're going to do a balance challenge. Starfish. So again, always do these next to something sturdy. Your kitchen counter, a sturdy piece of equipment like this, maybe a sturdy railing or a wall. We're going to stand on one foot, make yourself into a big star. Now we're going to tip over and keep going here. We're going to try this for 30 seconds. Now, if you need to, of course, maybe you can use your other foot kind of as a kickstand, but you want to keep that leg in line with your body here. So if this is really hard, you don't have to go further. So the further you take yourself off center, obviously the harder it is. We've got about 10 more seconds. Breathe, stabilize through your core here, and rest. So ways to make this a little easier. Obviously don't go so far. Find a point to focus on and really hold that. Think about keeping your tongue on the roof of your mouth and stabilize through your core. That will all make it a little bit easier. If you want to make it more challenging, you can tip further, obviously. Maybe stand on a balance pad or try this barefoot. Also, you can look around the room, and that makes it more challenging. So you're changing your proprioception. Oops, So here I'm talking and looking around and losing my balance. Breathe and rest. Okay, great. We've got one more to go. We're gonna sit on the floor. We do ab leans on the ball or on the side of a chair a lot, and I'm gonna mimic that same thing, but just on the floor. So this is always something you can do on the floor with no equipment. And also another ab exercise that you can do without involving your neck. So you wanna sit up nice and tall. Your knees are bent, your heels are just resting on the floor like this, nice and tall. Think about, the key here is thinking about keeping your chest tall. So none of this. You don't want to sink into your back like this. Chest tall. And you can start with your hands either out here or on the ground. Lean back and come back up. Now, to make it a little more challenging and to keep those muscles engaged, don't come back up all the way. So you're keeping that angle to keep your abs engaged. Now you can move your hands to your legs, or you can put them here. Breathe, lead with your chest. 7, 8, keep in that small range of motion. 9, 10. All right. One thing you can do too if you're having a hard time with your low back or your tailbone here is you could either stick a rolled up yoga mat here or a towel or like a really small squishy ball right in where your tailbone hits. Those are all ways to kind of make that a little more comfortable. But remember, don't round through your back. You want to keep everything as tall as you can. Okay, go through these 1 or 2 more times. Add a little cardio in between. Get that heart rate up and keep it going. And then follow with a good cool down and stretch. If you have any questions or need any modifications, please feel free to message me privately or leave a message in the comments. All right, have a great workout. We'll see you next time.